My name is Wendy Amsellem. I teach here at Risha, and I'm a director of the July Collegiate Program. This week's Parsha is Parashat Vayeitzei. One of the very sort of startling moments that happens in Parashat Vayeitzei, if you remember at the beginning, Yaakov meets his uncle Lavan and Lavan's two daughters, Rachel and Leah. Yaakov falls in love with Rachel, and he agrees with Lavan that he will work for Lavan for 7 years, and in the end he will be able to marry Rachel. 7 years go by, in the end the wedding is arranged, and at the last minute Lavan switches his two daughters, and Yaakov winds up married to Leah instead of to Rachel. He spends the night with Leah, and we're told in chapter 29, verse 25, Vayihi v'boker v'hinehi Leah. In the morning, behold, it was Leah. Now, this is a crazy thing, right? Yaakov has loved Rachel for 7 years. He's lived in the same household as her. How could he not have known that the woman who he was in bed with was her sister and not Rachel herself? Many different commentaries have struggled to explain how that could be. One famous one is the commentary of Chizkuni. Chizkuni says that really what this story shows us is how incredibly modest Yaakov was. He barely spoke to his wife at all, so much so that he did not even know that it was Leah with him and not Rachel. That's one possibility. Another possibility is raised by the Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Megillah. The Talmud assumes that actually, in order for this deception to go forward and to be effective, it couldn't just be that Yaakov didn't recognize that it was Leah. It had to be that somehow Rachel was involved in the deception. And according to the Gemara, in the beginning, Yaakov asks Rachel if she will marry him. She says yes, but just so you know, my father is a trickster, and he will try to switch my sister for me. And so Yaakov then gives her these special signs, so that way he'll always be able to know that it is her. And according to the Gemara, in the end, Rachel is worried that her sister Leah will be embarrassed. She says, "Hashta michsefa achtai." Now my sister will be ashamed. She doesn't want her sister to be sort of disgraced publicly in this manner. So at the last minute, she gives Leah all these special signs that Yaakov had given her, and as a result, Yaakov is deceived. So according to the Gemara, it's not just that the deception happened, but actually Rachel kind of played a role in it, and that's why it was effective. The Midrash in Eicha Rabbah takes the story a step further. The Midrash assumes that the signs alone would not really have been enough to actually make the deception work. And so instead, the Midrash says it's true that Rachel gave Leah these special signs that she had arranged with her husband Yaakov. But in addition, according to the Midrash, Rachel says, not only that, but I actually went underneath the bed in which Yaakov was lying with my sister. Yaakov would speak to her, and my sister Leah would be silent. But I would respond to whatever he said. So that way he would not even recognize the voice of my sister. So according to the Midrash, Yaakov would very much have recognized Rachel by her voice, but that's why she is sort of deliberately going into their bedroom and lying under their bed in order to protect her sister from embarrassment and to make the deception of Yaakov be effective. So these are all sort of different possible ways to explain how it could be that Yaakov could have been deceived in this manner. The first one was that Yaakov was just so very modest that he didn't even really speak to the woman in bed with him, and that's how he didn't know that it was Leah, not Rachel. Or alternatively, that Rachel participated in the deception, either just by giving her sister these signs, or also by actually lying under their bed and responding. One other possible reason I think that there could be for how it is that Yaakov doesn't know that it's Leah is I think it could be that even though Yaakov loves Rachel so much, and even though he's been waiting to marry her for 7 years, it's possible that he doesn't actually know her all that well. It's possible that maybe Rachel for him is kind of maybe he's just sort of projected onto her all of the hopes and dreams that he has of who she is, as opposed to kind of actually knowing who she is. And I think that there are parts of their relationship, as the Torah describes in the ensuing prakim, that kind of point to that fact. For example, later on in this parsha, when Rachel is desperate to have a child, she says to Yaakov, "Havali banim v'im ayin meta anochi," give me children, and otherwise I will die. And Yaakov really doesn't understand how desperate she is for a child, and instead he responds kind of callously. He says, "Hatachat Elohim anochi asher mimech pri baten." Am I here in the place of God? God is the one preventing you from having a child. I can't really do anything for you. And he doesn't doesn't seem to really sort of understand where Rachel is at. Later on, when eventually they leave Lavan's household, Rachel steals her father's idols, and Yaakov again doesn't seem to have any sense that it was possible for her to have done that. And so when Lavan comes chasing Yaakov down to get his idols back, Yaakov declares very, very definitively, "Im asher timtzat Elohecha lo yichyeh." Whoever in my household has your gods, they will not live. It's kind of clear that Yaakov never would have said that if he thought it was at all possible that Rachel could have been the one who had the idols. So it seems that Yaakov doesn't sort of have a good understanding of exactly who this woman is that he loves, and it might be that's why he isn't even able to really recognize her or recognize that it's not her in bed with him. Anyway, I guess as a quick recap, right? So the question we had was, how could it be that Yaakov doesn't realize that it's not Rachel who's with him on his wedding night? It could either be that Yaakov was incredibly modest. It could be that Rachel somehow participated in the deception, and that's why it was able to be so effective. Or it could be perhaps that Yaakov doesn't really know Rachel as well as he might think that he does. Shabbat Shalom.